Well, let's get straight to it. Hoops, you broke the story this morning. Damien Cook signs a 2-year deal with the St George Illawarra Dragons.
I think it's a win-win for both clubs, boys, in that Damien Cook, he's a leader, he's been around the game for so long, an established player. The Dragons have clearly been lacking in that dummy half department. And by signing Damien, it frees up $500,000 for South Sydney next year. They'll only have to chip in $50,000. And St George, well, they get another big name and big game player. He's played in 4 preliminary finals, a grand final, state of origin, tests for Australia. I think it's a good coup for St George Illawarra and another win for Shane Flanagan.
Big, how do you see it?
I don't love it, Braith. I'm not totally off it for the reasons that Hoop said. I think he's going to bring a lot to the side in terms of the standards they're trying to bring in. There's a void of experience at the Dragons. There's no doubt about that. Once Ben Hunt is not there, there's no natural leader in and around the side. So I don't mind it from that point of view. There's a reason Wayne Bennett's not having Damien Cook at the club next year. And then you're going to have a 32-year-old hooker in Damien Cook. You've got a 34-year-old halfback in Ben Hunt, potentially both off contract in 2 more years. I just think it's in a game now that's about speed and the young players in and around the ruck. I just don't know if he's going to add a lot to the Dragons on the field.
Hang on, Mick. What? Damien Cook hasn't got speed.
Well, he's getting slower.
He's been good the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, it wasn't that long ago he was playing reserve. Look, this is not a Damien Cook bashing, right? I want to be clear that
but he's
I'm not having
He's one of the more lightning-quick dummy halves in the competition.
I just think it's for the Dragons who have been very patient, I guess, in the way they're trying to build that roster. In the next 2 years, if a star dummy half comes onto the market, they're now out of play.
Yeah, but if you look at all the best playmakers in the competition now, a lot of them are playing well into their 30s. You mentioned Ben Hunt,
halfback. There's not a lot of hookers.
Well, Appy Coruscant's well into his 30s.
Yeah, and Appy's still in career best form.
Correct.
Damien's not.
Okay, well, I disagree. I think it's a good sign.
Look, and I'm like...
I don't think you're saying it's a bad sign.
I'm not saying it's a bad sign.
You just said you would have went a different direction,
I just would have been a little bit more patient.
You're worried about the cap now. So Damien Cook goes to 9, then you've got Ben Hunt 7, Kyle Flanagan at 6. So that looks like it's going to be the way it will be now moving forward. What do you think?
I thought Flanagan was maybe going to go into 9. That was a rumour that was spoken about. And with Cook, with the rule changes a few years ago, I thought he would have really lit it up. I think he's a little bit stale at South. Maybe this is the new injection that he needs. But and he's got to change his game a little bit. Like, he doesn't run as much. He's still probably the fastest hooker ever to play the game. But I think that it can be danger signs at that age in the last year of his deal.
Do you think he's too old for the money they've paid?
No, I don't think so. I think 500? I think that's a great buy. Yeah. Really. Like, that's not over. That's going rate, isn't it? Really?
My concern is that if Wayne Bennett's coming to win premierships, right? So he's not going to sell players that thinks he can win a competition regardless of their salary, right? And that's a concern.
It's a good point you make, because you're right. Wayne Bennett is coming to the club and he obviously didn't want Cook there, and he's making some big plays. Now, you mentioned it frees up a lot of money there, Hoops. Does that open the door for Brandon Smith to go from the Roosters to the Rabbitohs?
I think it's a possibility. And look, you never say never in rugby league, as crazy as it sounds, because they've hated and loathed one another since 1908, South Sydney and the Roosters, and it's very hard to see them ever agreeing to doing business on any sort of level. But in this instance, I just get the impression that Brandon's worn out his welcome at the Chooks, and a coach like Wayne Bennett, I know, and Gordon, you know as well, how good he can be.
Is this just an opinion of yours, or have you heard mail?
No, I have heard that it has been discussed and it is a possibility of happening.
Now, would Nick Politis let go of Brandon Smith to go to the enemy?
Well, that's going to be the $1 million question, and it is literally going to be the $1 million question, because it's going to be a matter of how much the Roosters would be prepared to throw in. I said on this show last week, Braith, that the talk is the Roosters will be willing to throw in $400,000 for Brandon to walk away from his contract for next year with them. Would they be willing to put that much in if it means he's going to go to South Sydney?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Like, that's a...
Well, they're going to pay South money for them to take
that's the
Brandon
manager's
Smith.
job.
And a marquee.
You would think the manager would go and say,
I don't know.
We will go find him a club. What's the deal? How much is it to get rid of him? And then they go, well, we can go and talk to whatever club we want.
There might be 500 at one club and 200 at
It'll be a reduced price of money. And just quickly too, Brandon Smith, he falls into that Wayne Bennett coach, he needs a little bit of help. He's off the rails a little bit. He's, it's another player that everyone would like to think that Wayne could get the best out of.
Well, it's strange because
of that
Craig Bellamy got
relationship.
the best out of him, right? So you get those big personality
But
players.
Robbo can coach.
Yeah, but some can't deal with big personalities. So could Brian Smith. He's probably the best coach. But when you get big and you're a personality and you're not always in the box, like Alan Langer would have tore strips off Brian Smith. He couldn't have handled him, right? Seriously, right?
Well, he did tear strips off him in the grand final.
Yeah, there you go. But like then some coaches just know how to deal with those bigger personalities, right? And you just see it, like someone like an Andrew Johns and a Wendell Saylor and the Alfie Langers, and they don't get treated, but they're just a little bit annoying. They buzz around the training. I think Brandon.
Well,
I think Wayne's had those.
He'll have his
players
hands
all of his
full
life.
because he's
Absolutely.
he'll have a few of them at the club. Like when you break it all down, I'm not going to name names, but at the Bunnies, you've got some players that are a little bit temperamental and a little bit up and down, and he's going to have to control all of them. But if he can control all of them, and he was to get him with the roster that they do have, they are definitely a premiership team. There's no doubt about it.
Well, he wanted him at the Dolphins, don't forget. And if it wasn't for dinner at Trent Robinson's house, he was committed. And the Dolphins thought they had him. So Wayne does have that knowledge of Brandon and had pursued him heavily before. But you're right, if they throw in Brandon Smith with Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, and they're playing off the front foot,